The mountain doesn't forgive. It doesn't negotiate. It doesn't care who you are, where you come from, or what you've survived before this moment. At 8,500 feet, the Hindu Kush Range sits like a broken jaw against the Afghan sky, all teeth and bone and frozen malice. The ridgeline is a knife edge of stone and ice, barely wide enough for a body to lie flat, and that's exactly what she's doing. Sarah Thornton is 24 years old. She hasn't slept in 68 hours. Her lips are cracked and bleeding from the dry mountain air. Her hands shake, not from fear, but from cold and exhaustion so deep it has settled into the marrow of her bones. Ice crystals have formed in her hair, turning the loose strands into brittle threads of frozen copper. Her face is gaunt, hollowed by 3 days without food, and the kind of sustained focus that burns calories like a furnace. Through the scope of her M110 rifle, the world is reduced to a circle of magnified reality. A window into a valley 1,300 meters below, where hell has opened its mouth and swallowed 12 good men. The radio crackles, static first, then a voice strained with the particular desperation of a man who has accepted he is going to die, but hasn't stopped fighting. Phantom Overwatch. This is Viper 6. We are combat ineffective. Surrounded. Estimate 200 plus Taliban fighters closing from 3 directions. 3 wounded, 2 critical. We need immediate extraction. How copy? The voice belongs to Lieutenant Commander Paxton Cross, 38 years old, a Navy SEAL who has survived 4 combat deployments and right now is crouched in a shallow rocky depression on the valley floor with 11 other men. Every one of them knows the math. 200 against 12. 3 wounded. No air support. The weather has closed the mountain passes. The helicopters cannot fly. They are alone. Sarah's voice is barely a whisper when she keys the radio, calm as still water, calm as the surface of a frozen lake before dawn. Viper 6, this is Phantom. I have eyes on your position. Count your personnel and mark your wounded. A pause. Confusion in his reply. Phantom, who the hell are you? Overwatch was scrubbed due to weather. Say again, who is this? Her finger is already on the trigger. She has been watching the Taliban commander for 45 seconds. He stands on a flat rock 200 meters from the SEAL position, gesturing with both hands, organizing his fighters into assault teams. Preparing to send them in for the kill, he is animated, confident. He believes these 12 Americans are already dead. He is wrong. Range 1,300 meters. Wind gusting crosswind 18 miles per hour with shifts every 4 to 6 seconds. Temperature -2 Celsius and falling. Barometric pressure dropping fast. The air is thin at this altitude. The bullet will fly faster, but the wind will push harder. She does the math in 2 heartbeats. Not conscious calculation. Instinct built from a lifetime behind a scope. Breath in, slow, 8 seconds. Breath out, slow, 8 seconds. Natural respiratory pause. That still point between heartbeats where the rifle, the shooter, and the earth become one system. Her finger begins its press on the trigger, and in that suspended moment, her eyes catch the flutter of olive drab yarn tied to the end of her barrel. 8 inches of frayed ancient thread, faded almost white by years of sun and wind. An improvised wind indicator that has not been standard practice for snipers in decades. Not since the invention of electronic wind meters and ballistic computers. But Sarah Thornton does not use electronics for wind. She uses a piece of yarn that belonged to her father. Captain Rollins Thornton, United States Army, sniper, killed in action, Fallujah, Iraq, November 12, 2007. The memory comes uninvited, not as a scene, but as a sensation. The smell of Virginia pine, the weight of a rifle too big for a 10-year-old's arms. Her father's hands, rough and steady, adjusting her grip on a late summer afternoon behind their farmhouse in the Blue Ridge foothills. Easy now, little bird. Don't fight the rifle. Let it talk to you. She was 10. He had brought home his service rifle for cleaning. She asked to hold it. He did something better. He taught her to shoot. That first afternoon, he tied a piece of olive drab yarn to the barrel. She watched it flutter in the breeze, confused. What's that for, Daddy? That's your best friend out there, Sarah. Machines break. Batteries die. Electronics fail in the cold, in the rain, in the worst moments when you need them most. But this piece of string will tell you the truth about the wind every single time. It doesn't need power. It doesn't need calibration. It just needs you to pay attention. She fired her first shot at 50 yards, missed by 2 feet. Her father laughed, not at her, with her. The pure delight of a man watching his daughter discover the thing that would define her life. Again, little bird, don't apologize for the miss. Adjust. Learn from it. She adjusted, fired again, closer, again, closer still. By the end of that afternoon, she was putting rounds inside a 6-inch circle at 100 yards. Her father picked her up, swung her around, and said the words she would carry for the rest of her life. That's my girl. That's a Thornton. 3 years later, he deployed to Iraq for the 4th time. 2 weeks before he was supposed to come home for Christmas, the call came. Captain Rollins Thornton killed by an improvised explosive device during a convoy escort in Fallujah. He was 42 years old. Sarah was 13. She did not cry at the funeral. She stood in her black dress with her mother's hand on her shoulder and watched them fold the flag with the same focused stillness she now brings to every shot she fires. After the ceremony, after the guests had gone and the casseroles had been stacked on the kitchen counter, and the house had gone quiet with the particular silence that only death leaves behind, she walked to the barn alone, found the piece of olive drab yarn hanging from a nail on the wall where her father kept his shooting equipment. She took it, put it in her pocket. It has not left her side since. 2 years after the funeral, at 15 years old, Sarah attended an Army recruitment event at her high school gymnasium in rural Virginia. The guest speaker was a colonel with a combat record that filled 3 pages, Colonel Thaddeus Kane, 44 years old, already marked for general stars by those who knew the trajectory of exceptional officers. Silver threads running through dark hair, a face lined by 2 wars and the decisions that came with them. After the speech, she walked straight up to him. No hesitation, no shyness. A teenage girl with fire in her eyes and the kind of directness that made the colonel's age shift uncomfortably. Sir, will the Army let me shoot? Not just qualify on a range, I mean really shoot. The way my father shot. Kane studied her face. Something shifted behind his eyes. Recognition, not of her, but of the man she carried in her features. The set of the bow, the steadiness of the gaze. What was your father's name? Captain Rollins Thornton, killed in Fallujah, 2007. 5 seconds of silence. An eternity. Kane's expression changed. He had known Rollins Thornton, served with him in the early days of Iraq, watched him shoot at distances that made other snipers shake their heads in disbelief. I knew your father. He was one of the finest marksmen I ever served with. He was the finest, sir, and I'm going to be better. Kane studied her for a long moment, then nodded once. You'll go far, kid, if you're willing to work for it. She worked for it, through 4 years of training that would have broken most soldiers twice over. Through qualification courses where she outshot men twice her age and 3 times her experience. Through her first deployment, her second, her third. Through the quiet accumulation of skill that comes only from years of deliberate punishing practice. The kind of work that leaves no room for shortcuts or excuses. Through the loneliness of being the only woman in rooms full of men who measured worth in bicep circumference and decibel level. She worked for it the way her father taught her, with repetition, with patience, with the willingness to fail 1,000 times so she could succeed once when it mattered. She filled notebooks with wind data, cataloged mirage behavior in desert heat and mountain cold and coastal fog. She fired until her shoulders bruised, until her ears rang despite the protection, until the rhythm of loading and firing became as unconscious as breathing. And now, at 24, on a frozen ridge in the Hindu Kush, with her dead father's yarn fluttering on her barrel and 12 lives hanging on every trigger press, the work is all that matters. The rifle cracks, sharp, precise, a sound that echoes off the mountain walls and disappears into the vast indifference of the sky. 1,300 meters away, the Taliban commander drops. Headshot. Clean. His body crumples off the rock and hits the ground before the sound of the shot reaches the valley floor. The radio erupts. Contact. Sniper. Where the hell did that come from? Sarah's voice does not change. Still calm, still quiet. Viper 6, you have 11 fighters in the immediate threat zone. Stay low. Keep quiet. I'll handle this. She does not wait for a response. She has already acquired the next target, another leader rallying scattered fighters. Range, 1,200 meters. Wind shifting, mirage dancing in the scope like heat rising off summer asphalt. Second shot, second kill. The Taliban are spinning, searching for a threat they cannot see, cannot locate, cannot comprehend. Their enemy is invisible. A ghost on the mountain. A voice from the heavens that speaks in the language of copper and lead. For 72 hours, Sarah Thornton holds them back. Every time they mass for an assault, a shot rings from the ridge and their leader falls. Every time they try to organize, the voice of God reaches down and takes their commander. They send scouts up the mountainside to find her. She kills them at 900 meters. They try to flank from the east through a narrow ravine. She adjusts position, dragging herself across 20 meters of frozen rock on elbows rubbed raw, and kills the flanking element's point man at 1,100 meters. They try to rush the SEAL position under cover of darkness. She switches to infrared, reads the heat signatures through the scope, and drops 3 fighters in 4 seconds. The SEALs in the valley can hear the shots. Distant cracks echoing off the mountain walls like the snapping of dry branches in a frozen forest. Each one a reprieve, each one a few more minutes of life. They do not know who is up there. They call her Phantom on the radio, and the name sticks. Phantom Overwatch, a ghost with a rifle and the patience of stone. They do not know it is a 24-year-old woman with a standard issue rifle and a dead man's yarn. Her water runs out at hour 40. She spends the remaining 32 hours in stages of dehydration that will later require IV fluids and hospitalization. She fires 37 rounds, scores 37 hits, not one wasted, not one miss. And by hour 60, the sustained firing and freezing temperatures begins to destroy the nerve endings in her right index finger. The cold is eating the feeling out of her hand, slowly, irreversibly. She can feel the numbness spreading like frost on a window pane. She keeps firing. By hour 68, she is hallucinating from dehydration and exhaustion. The mirage in her scope becomes something else entirely. Shapes that move like ghosts, shadows that wear her father's face. She bites the inside of her cheek until she tastes blood. The sharp copper pain clears her vision. She finds the next target. Not today, not them. 4 words whispered to herself. 4 words that become a heartbeat, a mantra, a reason to keep the rifle steady when every cell in her body is screaming to let go. By hour 70, the Taliban break. 200 fighters scatter into the mountains like leaves ripped from branches in a winter gale. Defeated by one shooter they never saw. Never located, never engaged. When the extraction helicopters finally arrive and pull the 12 SEALs out of that valley, all 12 are alive, wounded, traumatized, dehydrated, but breathing. Every one of them going home to their families. Chief Petty Officer Bridger Hale, 30 years old, father of a toddler son with another baby on the way back home in Virginia Beach, looks up at the ridge from the open door of the Chinook. Through exhaustion and dust and the rotor wash that turns the world into a blur of brown and gray, he sees a tiny silhouette against the dawn sky. A figure on the ridgeline, not standing, collapsing, folding in on itself like a structure whose foundation has finally given way. He raises his hand in a slow, deliberate salute toward the mountain. He does not know who is up there. None of them do. The extraction team finds Sarah 40 minutes later, collapsed, unconscious, hypothermic, frostbite on 3 fingers of her left hand, severe dehydration, permanent nerve damage in her right index finger that will never fully heal. She is evacuated to Bagram, then to Landstuhl Regional Medical Center in Germany, then to Walter Reed in Washington. She spends 2 weeks in a hospital bed. The doctors tell her the nerve damage is irreversible. She will never have full sensation in her trigger finger again. She tells them she understands. She does not tell them she plans to keep shooting. Her name does not appear in any official report. The mission is classified at the highest level. The 12 SEALs are debriefed individually. Each is told the same thing. Your Overwatch was a classified asset. That is all you need to know. It is not enough. Not for Bridger Hale, not for any of them. For 6 years, the 12 men search for the person they call Phantom. Bridger leads the effort. files Freedom of Information requests that come back redacted to the point of absurdity, makes phone calls to contacts in every branch, attends sniper competitions across the country, scanning faces, listening for a voice he heard once on a radio in the darkest night of his life. A voice that was calm when calm should have been impossible. Stay low. Keep quiet. I'll handle this. He never finds her. Sarah is promoted to Sergeant Major in a quiet ceremony at Fort Bragg, the highest enlisted rank in the Army, E9, a position of immense responsibility and respect, the kind of rank that commands battalions and advises colonels. But when she transfers to the Army Marksmanship Unit, she does something that no one understands. She wears sergeant's stripes, 3 chevrons, not the complex insignia of a sergeant major. No one questions it. No one asks why, and Sarah never explains. The recognition does not matter to her. The rank does not matter. Only the work matters. In the years that follow, she writes the long-range engagement doctrine that becomes Field Manual 32210, Chapter 7, High-Altitude Wind Correction Formulas, Thin Atmosphere Ballistic Compensation, Temperature Coefficient Adjustments validated through combat application on a frozen mountain while counting heartbeats between shots. The manual is distributed to every sniper school in the United States military. Every precision marksman in the armed forces studies her formulas, practices her methods, calculates their holds using her mathematics. None of them know who wrote it. The author is listed as classified. The human being behind the numbers remains invisible. That is how she wants it. But the body keeps its own accounts. The tremor in her trigger finger grows slowly worse over the years. Some days it is nothing, a whisper of sensation, barely noticeable. Other days it arrives without warning, a sudden spasm that makes her hand clench involuntarily. She never tells anyone, never reports it to medical. She compensates, adapts, finds ways to work around the damage the way a concert violinist works around arthritic knuckles. The music does not stop. It finds a different path. And every single day for 6 years, Chief Petty Officer Bridger Hale asks himself the same question. Who is Phantom? And then came Fort Irwin. 72 hours, 12 lives, 1 shooter. This is her story before anyone knew her name. The Mojave Desert is a furnace. It bakes the earth until the ground cracks like old leather. It bleaches bones white in a single summer. At 107 degrees Fahrenheit, the air itself becomes a physical force, pressing down on everything, distorting vision, making the distant mountains shimmer and waver like a painting left too close to a flame. The range known as the Cauldron sits in the heart of the Fort Irwin National Training Center, a vast expanse of sun-scorched concrete and blasted sand designed for one purpose, to separate the truly skilled from the merely competent. Today it hosts the annual Joint Special Operations Command Precision Rifle Symposium. Nearly 200 of the military's finest marksmen have gathered here. Rangers, Green Berets, Marine Raiders, Navy SEALs, Delta Force operators whose names do not appear on any official roster. The best of the best. Their rifles gleam in the brutal sunlight. Custom-built instruments of precision that cost more than most people's cars. Barrett 82 A150 caliber rifles, $12,000 each. Accuracy International AXMC rifles chambered in .338 Lapua Magnum, $9,000. Remington MSR rifles fitted with Schmidt and Bender optics, $15,000. Carbon fiber stocks lighter than balsa and stronger than steel. Match-grade barrels hand-lapped to mirror finish. Titanium actions machined to tolerances measured in 10,000ths of an inch. Custom ammunition loaded round by round with powder charges weighed to the 10th of a grain. These are not merely weapons. They are mechanical poetry forged in steel and carbon. The sum of human ingenuity applied to the singular purpose of sending a small piece of metal to a precise point in space at a precise moment in time. The men who carry them have the swagger to match. Combat patches on every uniform. Deployment beards grown thick during months in places most Americans cannot find on a map. The easy confidence of warriors who have seen the worst the world can offer and walked away upright. And then there is Sarah Thornton. She arrives in a 2015 Ford F-150 with paint faded by too many desert suns. driving alone. She parks at the far end of the lot, away from the cluster of expensive trucks and tactical SUVs. When she steps out, she is wearing a standard Army combat uniform, clean but showing wear. No combat patches, no decorations, no badges of honor. The name tape reads Thornton. The rank on her collar, Sergeant, 3 stripes. She opens the truck bed and pulls out a soft rifle case. Not a hard case. Not a tactical Pelican case with custom foam inserts and combination locks. A simple padded bag, the kind you can buy at any sporting goods store for $40. From 50 feet away, a group of Marine Raiders watches her. One of them, a staff sergeant with a fresh, high and tight haircut, nudges his buddy. Check it out. Army Marksmanship Unit. His buddy glances over, sees Sarah, sees the soft case, loses interest immediately. Support role. Probably here for admin. They turn back to their rifles, their conversations, their world. Sarah does not exist to them. She is scenery. Background noise. She walks to firing position 23, sets down her gear, unzips the case. The rifle that emerges is an M110 semi-automatic sniper system. 7.62 millimeters NATO, standard issue, a capable weapon in the right hands. But here in this company, surrounded by custom marvels of engineering, worth more than a year's salary, it looks exactly like what it is. Basic, functional, ordinary. She pulls a small cleaning cloth from her pocket and begins wiping down the bolt with slow, methodical movements. Each motion flows into the next with the practiced economy that comes from having performed this ritual thousands of times. Her hands know the work without being told. Oil the bolt. Check the extractor. Inspect the firing pin. And tied to the barrel, catching the desert breeze, the piece of olive drab yarn, faded, frayed, ancient. The only thing about her that is not standard issue. 30 feet away, Master Sergeant Declan Shea is holding court. Declan is 39 years old, 6'2" of Marine Corps muscle and Irish-American swagger. He has a voice that carries across any room and a laugh that booms like distant ordnance. His rifle, resting on a custom shooting mat, is a precision-built masterpiece chambered in .338 Lapua Magnum, carbon fiber stock, stainless steel barrel, hand-lapped and cryogenically treated. Schmidt and Bender 5 to 25 power scope with a price tag that could buy a used truck. Total investment north of $18,000. He is surrounded by an audience. Marines mostly, but a few Army Rangers, a couple of Green Berets. They are laughing at something he said. Declan has that gift, the ability to command a crowd with nothing more than volume and confidence. He glances over at Sarah, sees her kneeling by her gear, sees the M110, sees the soft case. His eyes light up with opportunity. "Hey, fellas," he says, loud enough to carry across the entire firing line. "Y'all see that? Army brought a museum piece." The laughter starts. Not cruel yet, just the easy mockery of men who know they sit at the top of every hierarchy that matters. Sarah does not look up. She inserts a magazine into the rifle well. The click is crisp, precise, a small sound of mechanical perfection. She continues her work. Declan takes 3 steps toward her. His audience follows. Now there are 8 men standing around one woman kneeling by her rifle, and she's the center of attention whether she wants it or not. "That little thing," he says, his Texas drawl thick and syrupy despite his Irish surname. "Sweetheart, you'd be better off throwing rocks." Louder laughter. A couple of men exchange glances. One shifts his weight, uncomfortable, but says nothing. The group has momentum. Nobody wants to be the one to break it. For the first time, Sarah's hands pause. Just for half a second. Her fingers stop moving on the rifle. Then they resume. Steady, deliberate. She still does not look at him. The lack of reaction frustrates Declan. He is a man accustomed to getting a response. Anger, embarrassment, something. "I'm serious, darling. That pea shooter might work on a flat range in perfect conditions. Out here in the real world, you're outgunned before you even start." Sarah sets down the rifle, picks up a small Torque wrench, the kind used for precision scope work, begins checking the scope rings. Her expression is neutral. Not angry, not embarrassed, not intimidated, just focused. It is the face of someone completely absorbed in a task. The outside world, with all its noise and pettiness, simply does not exist. 400 yards away in the observation tower, General Thaddeus Kane lowers his binoculars. He is 59 years old now, 4 stars on his collar, commander of the Joint Special Operations Command. His hair has gone fully silver in the 15 years since he was a colonel, speaking at a high school gymnasium in Virginia. His face carries the deep lines of decades of command. He has been watching Sarah since she arrived, watched her park away from the crowd, watched her pull out the soft case, watched her begin her ritual with the kind of quiet professionalism that most operators will never understand. And now he is watching Declan Shea make a fool of himself. Kane's jaw tightens, his knuckles go white on the binocular housing. A memory surfaces. 15 years ago, a gymnasium in rural Virginia, a teenage girl with fire in her eyes. I'm going to be better than my father. He had been a colonel then. She had been a child burning with grief and purpose. Now he has 4 stars, and she has a legend buried in classified files that most of these men cannot begin to comprehend. He raises the binoculars again, watches Sarah ignore the mockery. A small smile crosses his weathered face. Not amusement, recognition. At firing position 13, Chief Petty Officer Bridger Hale watches. Bridger is 36 now. Navy SEAL, Team 5. Father of 2 boys, 7 and 4, back home in Virginia Beach. Boys who do not yet understand what their father does for a living. His face is all angles and edges, carved by hard deployments and harder memories. His hair is salt and pepper, cut short. His eyes are gray, pale gray, the color of storm clouds building over open ocean. He has been observing Sarah since she arrived, not openly, peripheral awareness, the way one professional watches another. Respectful, cautious, curious. He sees the yarn on her barrel and something stirs deep in his memory. He has seen that before, not recently, years ago on a mountain, in a scope. But the connection will not come into focus. It is a splinter buried under the skin. He can feel it but cannot reach it. He watches her test the yarn, watches her read its flutter, interpret the movement like a sailor reading the sea. He watches her pull out a small, spiral-bound notebook, its cover bent from being shoved into cargo pockets across continents. Pages of handwritten data. Wind patterns, mirage behavior, elevation corrections, temperature coefficients. A decade of accumulated knowledge compressed into $3 worth of paper and ink. He watches her posture, shoulders perfectly square, relaxed but ready, zero wasted tension. She settles into position behind that rifle the way a river settles into its bed. Naturally, inevitably, the mark of someone who has spent so many hours behind a scope that the position has become as unconscious as a heartbeat. Bridger sets down his coffee. His full attention is locked on her now. He recognizes something, not her face. He has never met this woman, but he recognizes the language she speaks, the silent language of true mastery. It is the same language he speaks, the same language that all real professionals speak, regardless of service or unit or rank or the price tag on their equipment. She is a shooter, a real shooter. And that standard issue M110 is about to teach every man on this range a lesson none of them will forget. The public address system crackles to life. The voice of the range master, a grizzled Army sergeant major with 30 years on firing lines around the world, echoes across the cauldron. All shooters, listen up. We are green for the final event, the Serpent's Tooth. Report to the firing line for briefing in 5 minutes. I say again, 5 minutes. A ripple goes through the assembled shooters. Conversations pause. Men straighten. The Serpent's Tooth is the reason most of them are here, the final test, the impossible challenge, the one that separates legends from everyone else. The range master steps onto a small platform. His face is sunburned and deeply lined. He looks like he was carved from the same rock as the mountains behind him. Listen close. I'm only saying this once. The Serpent's Tooth consists of 7 targets, ranges from 800 meters to 2,000 meters. You will engage them in sequence. You have a 10-minute time window from your first shot. Wind in the valley is variable, 6 to 18 miles per hour. Direction changes with the thermals. If you can't handle that, withdraw now. No shame. He pauses. 8 shooters step back immediately. Their rifles cannot reach 2,000 meters. They know it. Better to withdraw with dignity than fail publicly. Targets 1 through 6 are standard. Steel plates, 12 to 18 inches, partially obscured by terrain. Target 7 is at 2,000 meters. That is 2,187 yards, 1.24 miles. A 12-inch steel plate, white painted. At that range, with this wind, most of your rifles are at the absolute edge of their capability. Some are beyond it. Bullet drop will be in the neighborhood of 600 inches. That is 50 feet. Wind drift could be 20 inches or more. Mirage will lie to you. Thermals will betray you. Dead silence. Everyone doing the math. Everyone checking their ballistic calculators. This is not a shoot for score. This is a test of capability, of discipline, of whether you can make the impossible shot when it matters. Sign-up sheet is on the table. First shooter in 10 minutes. Declan Shea is first to sign. Of course he is first. He picks up the pen and writes his name in big, bold letters. Turns to his audience, grinning. That's why you bring a real cannon to a gunfight, boys. Laughter, backslaps, confidence radiating like heat off asphalt. And then through the crowd, Sarah Thornton steps forward. She does not push, does not shove, just waits patiently for a gap, then moves through it. Picks up the pen, writes in small, precise handwriting, SGTS, Thornton, USA. Sets down the pen, turns, walks back to position 23. For 3 full seconds, nobody moves. Nobody speaks. Then Declan laughs. But the sound is different now. There is an edge to it, the first crack of uncertainty beneath the bravado. Well, bless her heart, at least she's got spirit. A few men chuckle, nervous, unsure. But Bridger Hale, standing at the back of the crowd, is not laughing. He is watching Sarah walk away, the set of her shoulders, the calm in her stride, and something is rising in his memory, something from 6 years ago. A voice on a radio in the darkest moment of his life. Calm, steady, absolutely fearless. Stay low, keep quiet. I'll handle this. Could she be Phantom? 10 minutes later, the crowd has formed a semicircle around the firing line. Declan Shea is in position. Prone, rifle deployed on its bipod. His spotter beside him with a Kestrel electronic wind meter worth $3,000. Shooter ready? Ready. Stand by. 3, 2, 1. Commence firing. Target 1, 800 meters. An 18-inch steel plate partially hidden behind a berm. Declan finds it in his scope, dials elevation. His spotter reads the wind. Wind right to left, 8 miles per hour. Hold right edge. Declan breathes. In, out, squeeze, boom. The rifle's report is enormous, a massive concussive blast that echoes off the mountains. The recoil pushes his whole body back 2 inches. Ping, target 1, hit. He works the bolt. Smooth, fast. He is good. Nobody can deny that. Target 2, 1,000 meters. Boom, ping, hit. Target 3, 4, 5, 6. Each shot a demonstration of genuine skill. Time remaining, 3 minutes to 12 seconds. Now comes target 7, 2,000 meters. The impossible shot. His spotter reads the wind with the Kestrel. Variable 11 miles per hour quartering right. Wait. Gust from the valley, 16 miles per hour. Number. Shifting again. Back to 12. The wind is chaos, a living thing, unpredictable. Declan dials his elevation. 58 minutes of angle. Holds for wind, 4 minutes right. Breath in, breath out. Hold, squeeze, boom. The sound is apocalyptic. The muzzle blast kicks up dust in a 20-foot radius. Downrange, far across the valley, a plume of dust erupts 3 feet to the left of the target. Miss, Declan curses, reloads fast. His spotter calls a correction. Wind change mid-flight, now left to right, 12 miles per hour. Declan adjusts, dials left, holds. Boom. Another miss, 2 feet above and 1 foot right. The timer beeps. 10 minutes. Time is up. Declan stands, frustration carved into his face, but he masks it quickly, shrugs, turns to the crowd with a grin that does not reach his eyes. Wind's a witch today, fellas. 2,000 meters in these conditions, that's a lottery ticket. Nods, sympathy, understanding. It is the wind, always the wind. Nobody can fight the wind. Score, 6 out of 7, respectable expected. The rangemaster calls out, next shooter, Sergeant Thornton, you're up. The crowd shifts, rearranges. Nobody is leaving. They want to see this. Not because they expect success, because there is a certain entertainment in watching someone reach beyond their grasp. Sarah walks to the firing line. No hurry, no hesitation. She kneels, sets down her pack, pulls out her rifle. She lies down behind the M110 and her body melts into the position. Not forced, not strained, just settles, like water finding its level. She closes her eyes for 3 seconds, centers herself. When she opens them, the world has changed. Everything external falls away. The crowd, the heat, the mockery. There is only the rifle, the targets, the wind. Shooter ready? Ready. Stand by. 3, 2, 1, commence firing. Target 1, 800 meters. Her breathing is slow, rhythmic. 8 seconds in, 8 seconds out. Through the scope, she watches the mirage, the heat waves dancing across the valley floor. Waits for the pattern to stabilize. There, her finger begins its slow press on the trigger. Not a pull, not a jerk, a gradual increase of pressure until the shot breaks like a glass rod snapping clean. Crack, not a boom, a crack, sharp, precise. The sound of a 7.62 round is a different animal than Declan's .338 Lapua. Ping, target 1, hit. The M110 is semi-automatic, no bolt to work. She reacquires instantly. Target 2, 1,000 meters. The yarn on her barrel flutters, right to left, 6 miles per hour. She holds left. Crack. Ping. Hit. Target 3, 1,200 meters. Crack. Ping. Target 4, 1,400. Crack. Ping. She is moving faster than Declan did. The semi-automatic action gives her an edge. No bolt manipulation, no break in rhythm. Each shot flows into the next like notes in a melody. Target 5, 1,550 meters. Crack. Ping. Target 6, 1,600 meters. Crack. Ping. 6 for 6. Flawless. Time remaining, 4 minutes, 8 seconds. The crowd is silent now. Something fundamental has shifted. The mockery is gone, replaced by the quiet of men recalculating every assumption they have made since this woman arrived. And now, target 7, 2,000 meters, 1.24 miles. Sarah studies the target through her scope. The white plate is a tiny speck barely visible, wavering in the heat mirage like a coin at the bottom of a swimming pool. She knows the math. Bullet drop for 7.62 NATO at this range, over 700 inches. The round will go transonic around 1,800 meters. It will lose stability, start to tumble. This rifle cannot make this shot. The physics do not allow it. She knows this. She fires anyway. Crack, downrange, dust kicks up 6 feet to the right. A ranging shot. Deliberate, not a miss. An information gathering exercise. She cranks her scope turret. 30 clicks left. Crack. Closer. 4 feet left now, but still short. 2 feet low. The crowd murmurs, sympathetic. She is trying. It is admirable but futile. Time remaining, 58 seconds. Sarah lies behind the rifle, perfectly still. She can feel her heartbeat in her fingertips, can feel the earth beneath her chest. She knows she cannot make this shot with this rifle. She knows it with the certainty of a woman who has spent her entire adult life understanding ballistics. And then she hears footsteps on concrete. Heavy boots, walking toward her with purpose. The crowd parts. Bridger Hale steps through. In his hands, he carries his rifle, an M110 SAS Enhanced, the upgraded variant, bigger, more powerful. Chambered in .300 Winchester Magnum instead of 7.62 NATO. Capable of reaching distances that Sarah's rifle can only dream of. He walks to position 23, kneels beside her. The crowd is frozen. What is he doing? Bridger sets his rifle down on her mat, deploys the bipod. The weapon sits there, offered. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a single brass cartridge. Hand-loaded, match grade. The best ammunition that money and skill can produce. He places it beside the rifle. And then he speaks. His voice is low, gravelly, weighted with 6 years of searching. Try mine, Sergeant Major. The crowd gasps. Sergeant Major, she is wearing sergeant stripes. 3 chevrons. Not the complex insignia of a sergeant major, not the rank that advises colonels and commands the respect of entire battalions. What did he just say? Declan Shea's face goes white. Confusion spreads through the assembled shooters like a shockwave. Sarah looks up at Bridger. Their eyes meet. And in that moment, a memory surfaces from 6 years of classified silence. A voice on a radio in the darkest night. Bridger's eyes are wet, not crying, but close. A man standing on the edge of an emotion he has carried for 6 years. I've been looking for you for 6 years, he says quietly. Phantom. Sarah's expression does not change, but something flickers in her eyes. Recognition, acknowledgement, the settling of a debt that can never be fully paid. She gives one small nod. Bridger stands, steps back, crosses his arms, and waits. The crowd is in chaos. Whispers, questions. But General Thaddeus Kane, 400 yards away in the observation tower, is already walking toward the stairs, smiling. Finally, they are going to understand. The world narrows to a single point of focus. Sarah's hands move to the SAS Enhanced, not her rifle. A weapon she has never touched before. Yet her fingers find the bolt, the safety, the trigger guard, as if they have known this rifle for 1,000 years. Muscle memory transcends the specific tool. A master pianist can play any piano. A master surgeon can use any scalpel. A master sniper can shoot any rifle. She chambers the single brass cartridge. The bolt slides forward with a metallic click that seems to echo across the silent range. Time remaining, 42 seconds. She settles her cheek against the stock. The polymer is warm from the sun. The rifle is heavier than her M110. Different balance, different feel. But the fundamentals remain. Physics does not care which rifle you are using. Gravity pulls the same. Wind pushes the same. The earth spins the same. Through the scope, the target reappears. 2,000 meters, a 12-inch white circle against tan earth, wavering in the heat mirage. Her breathing slows, deepens. 8 seconds in, hold. 8 seconds out, hold. The rhythm of absolute calm. The yarn on the barrel flutters, right to left, 12 miles per hour. Shifting now, left to right, 14. Gusting, back to 10. The wind is alive, chaotic, unpredictable. Most shooters would wait for a lull, a pocket of calm. Sarah does not wait. She reads the chaos, finds the pattern within it. The wind follows rules. Thermals rising from the valley floor. Currents channeled by the mountain walls. It is a dance, complex but learnable. She has spent her whole life learning it. Her calculations run in 3 seconds. 300 Winchester Magnum, muzzle velocity, 2,900 feet per second. Ballistic coefficient of the hand-loaded match-grade bullet, 715. Range, 2,000 meters. Elevation, 58 minutes of angle. Bullet drop, 640 inches, 53 feet. Wind drift at current conditions, 18 inches right. Thermal rising from the valley floor will push left. Compensate. Net drift, 12 inches right. Coriolis effect. Northern hemisphere, shooting east, 2 minutes of angle right. Spin drift, always right with right hand twist barrel, 1.5 minutes. Temperature, 107 degrees. Air density low. Bullet will fly faster, flatter. Adjust elevation down, half a minute. All of this in 3 seconds. Not conscious thought. Instinct honed by a lifetime behind a scope. Her hand moves to the elevation turret. Precise clicks. The crosshairs shift. Time remaining, 35 seconds. She finds her natural respiratory pause. That moment between breaths where the body is perfectly still. Where the heartbeat quiets. Where the rifle, the shooter, and the earth become one unified system. Her finger begins its press on the trigger. Slow. Gradual. Constant pressure. She does not know when the shot will break. That is the point. If she anticipates, she will flinch. The subconscious will betray her. The trigger must be a surprise, even to the shooter. The rifle fires. The sound is different from the M110, sharper, more authoritative. The recoil is heavier, a firm shove against her shoulder. She rides it, does not fight it, becomes part of it. Through the scope, she watches for 3.2 seconds. The bullet leaves the barrel at 2,900 feet per second. It climbs, arcs, reaches its apex 85 feet above the line of sight, then begins to descend. At 1,800 meters, it goes transonic, breaks the sound barrier in reverse. The shock wave causes it to wobble, destabilize. For a fraction of a second, it is a coin spinning in the air, ready to tumble into useless metal. But the hand-loaded round is perfectly balanced. The rifling was perfect. The launch was perfect. It holds. The wind catches it right. A thermal from the valley floor pushes left. The forces cancel. The bullet continues on its path. 2,000 meters downrange, the white steel plate waits. The sound arrives 3.2 seconds after the shot. A distant metallic clang that rolls across the valley like the tolling of a cathedral bell. Clear, unmistakable, final. Target 7, hit, center mass. Time elapsed. 9 minutes, 58 seconds. Silence. Not anticipation, not shock. The silence of 200 assumptions shattering simultaneously. The silence of men who have built entire identities on being the best, suddenly confronting the possibility that their understanding of what best means was incomplete. For 4 full seconds, nobody moves, nobody speaks, nobody breathes. Declan Shea's mouth is open. His face has gone pale beneath the sunburn. The impossible just happened. A woman he mocked 3 hours ago just made the shot he missed. With a borrowed rifle she had never touched, under conditions that should have made it impossible twice over. A Green Beret turns to the man next to him. Tell me you saw that. Tell me I'm not hallucinating from the heat. I saw it. 2,000 meters. One shot. Cold bore on a rifle she's never fired before. I saw it. The murmur begins, spreads, builds. Bridger stands with his arms crossed, a tight smile on his weathered face, eyes shining. After 6 years of searching, of wondering, of lying awake trying to remember the exact quality of a calm voice on a radio in the worst hours of his life, he has found her. And she just proved in front of 200 of the military's finest exactly who and what she is. Then footsteps, heavy, purposeful, authority in every step. General Thaddeus Kane is walking across the active firing line. Range masters move to intercept. Protocol demands it. The range is hot. A 4-star general has no business in a live fire area. Kane raises one hand, a gesture of absolute command. No words necessary. The range masters stop. Step back. He walks past Bridger first. Stops. Their eyes meet. Well done, Chief Hale. Just gave her the right tools, sir. She did the impossible part. Indeed she did. Kane continues. Passes Declan Shea. Stops. Looks at the Marine. Does not speak. The silence between them is heavier than any words. Kane's eyes hold disappointment. Not anger. The kind a father shows a son who should have known better. The kind that cuts deeper than any reprimand. Declan cannot meet his gaze. Looks down. His face flushes with shame. 5 seconds. Then Kane moves on. He stops in front of Sarah. She starts to rise, coming to attention. Proper military protocol when a general officer approaches. As you were, Sergeant Major. The words hit the crowd like a physical force. Sergeant Major, from a 4-star general. Not a mistake, not a slip. Deliberate, intentional. Kane turns to face the assembled crowd. 200 shooters, the finest in the United States military. His voice does not need to be loud. It carries the weight of 4 decades of command. For the last 3 days, I have heard a lot of talk. I have seen a lot of expensive rifles. I have witnessed a lot of pride. Some of it earned, most of it not. Nobody speaks. You see the sergeant. You see her standard issue rifle, her lack of expensive gear. And you made assumptions. You judged the book by its cover. Didn't even bother to read the first page. Let me read it for you. His voice rises, every word precise. This is Sergeant Major Sarah Thornton, United States Army. Serial number classified. Shock ripples through the crowd. Sergeant Major, E9, the highest enlisted rank. The long-range engagement doctrine that you all studied to qualify for this symposium. The manual you memorized. The formulas you calculated. She didn't study them. She wrote them. Gasps. Audible gasps from hardened men who thought nothing could surprise them. Field Manual 32210, Chapter 7. High-altitude wind correction formulas. Thin atmosphere, ballistic compensation. Temperature coefficient adjustments. Written by Sergeant Major Thornton. Based on field data collected during Operation Enduring Freedom. Validated through combat application. He pauses, lets the weight of it settle. Afghanistan, Korangal Valley. October 2018. A 12-man SEAL reconnaissance team was compromised, ambushed by over 200 Taliban fighters. 3 wounded, no cover, no extraction possible. Weather closed in, no air support, no quick reaction force. They were alone, surrounded, combat ineffective. His voice drops to a register that forces every man to lean in. For 72 hours, they were hunted. For 72 hours, one sniper held back an army from a ridge 1 mile away. Never sleeping, never eating, water gone after 40 hours. Firing in conditions that would make today's challenge look like a Sunday afternoon at the club range. He looks at Bridger. Every time the enemy massed for an assault, a shot rang from the heavens and their leader fell. The enemy called it the voice of God. They thought they were being hunted by a demon. By a curse, they broke. They fled. 200 fighters scattered by one shooter they never saw, never located, never engaged. He points at Sarah. That shooter, that voice of gun, was a 24-year-old sergeant named Sarah Thornton. The revelation lands like an artillery round. Men physically step back as if the information has mass. A Green Beret removes his hat and stares at it as if it might provide an explanation. A Ranger has both hands on top of his head, eyes closed. A Marine is laughing, not with humor, but with the helpless sound of shock. Kane is not finished. The extraction team found her collapsed from exhaustion and dehydration. Hypothermic, frostbite on her fingers. She had been firing for so long in such cold that she permanently damaged the nerve endings in her trigger finger. She spent 2 weeks in a field hospital. Then she went back to work. His voice changes, goes quiet, personal, the piece of yarn on her rifle barrel. Some of you noticed it. Some of you probably thought it was a joke, an antique, a prop. That yarn belonged to her father. Captain Rollins Thornton, United States Army sniper. Killed in action, Fallujah, Iraq, 2007. He tied it to a rifle barrel when she was 10 years old and taught her to read the wind with it. She has carried it with her on every shot she has ever fired. Into training, into combat, onto that frozen ridge where she saved 12 men's lives. She carries her father into every fight. The silence is total. Not a breath, not a heartbeat. Kane's voice cracks, just slightly, just enough to show that behind the 4 stars and the command presence and the 4 decades of practiced composure, there is a man who cares. Chief Petty Officer Bridger Hale was one of those 12 men. He spent 6 years searching for the woman who saved his life. Today, he found her. Every head turns. Bridger steps forward, comes to attention, renders a slow, perfect salute towards Sarah. Tears are running openly down his face. He does not wipe them. Sarah returns it. Then General Thaddeus Kane does something that every man present will remember for the rest of his life. He comes to attention, perfect posture, shoulders back, chin level, and a 4-star general, commander of Joint Special Operations Command, renders a slow, crisp, heartbreakingly respectful salute to a non-commissioned officer kneeling in the dirt. Sergeant Major Sarah Thornton, it is the highest honor of my career to share this range with you. Sarah looks up, meets his eyes, and for the first time, emotion breaks through the surface she has maintained since she arrived. Her eyes glisten. She returns the salute. Her hand trembles, just slightly. They hold it. General and Sergeant Major, 4 stars and 3 chevrons, separated by 35 years of rank. united by something that rank can never create and can never destroy. 5 seconds, an eternity. Then the crowd erupts. Not polite applause, not measured professional respect. A roar, a tidal wave of sound. 200 hardened warriors on their feet, shouting, cheering, whistling, clapping until their hands ache and still not stopping. Some have tears streaming down sunburned faces and do not care. Some are laughing the helpless laughter of men whose understanding of the world has just been rewritten. Some are shaking their heads, replaying every assumption they made that morning. Declan Shay stands at the back, not clapping, not moving. His world has been inverted. Everything he thought he knew about hierarchy, about status, about what makes a warrior great, has been dismantled. He looks at his $18,000 rifle and feels the weight of his own smallness. Not because his equipment is inadequate, because his understanding was. Kane raises one hand, the applause dies. Instantly, the power of command. Today you received a masterclass, not in shooting, in humility, in understanding that true excellence doesn't announce itself, it demonstrates itself. I suggest you learn from it. He turns and walks back toward the tower. The crowd parts for him. As he passes Declan, he does not look at him. The absence of attention is worse than any rebuke. Later, the crowd dispersing, Sarah packing her gear with the same methodical care she showed at the beginning. Bridger approaches, his voice rough, raw. I've wanted to thank you for 6 years. You already did, Chief. You gave me your rifle. That rifle is yours now. I insist. She looks at him, studies his face, the scars, the salt and pepper hair, the lines of hard years, viper element. You made it home. All 12 of us. Because of you. A pause, then Sarah extends her hand. If you ever need anything, Chief, anything, you call me. I was about to say the same thing, ma'am. They shake hands. Firm, respectful. Warriors recognizing warriors. As Bridger walks away, Declan approaches. Slowly, hesitantly. A different man from the one who strode across the firing line 3 hours ago. He stops 3 feet from Sarah, opens his mouth, closes it, tries again. Sergeant Major, I was an arrogant. His voice breaks. Sarah straightens, faces him. Her expression is neutral, not angry, not forgiving, just calm. Then you saw what you expected to see. Most people do. She extends her hand. You're a damn good shooter, Shay. You just forgot that gear doesn't make the warrior. The warrior makes the gear matter. Declan takes her hand, grips it hard. Yes, ma'am. I won't forget again. Good. Now go teach someone else that lesson. He walks away, changed, smaller in his own eyes and larger in the eyes of every man who watched him swallow his pride. Sarah finishes packing. The SAS goes into a hard case now, Bridger's gift. She walks toward her truck. General Kane appears beside her, walking in step, hands clasped behind his back. You could have revealed yourself at any time. Wasn't about me, sir. Never was. That's exactly why you're the finest soldier I've ever known. They stand for a moment and then Kane speaks, almost to himself, his voice barely audible above the desert wind. You've come a long way, Rollins. Your girl has come a long way. Sarah's jaw tightens, the only visible sign that the words have reached something deep. Take care of yourself, Sarah. You too, sir. She drives away. In the rearview mirror, the cauldron shimmers in the heat. Behind her, the legend has already begun to spread. 6 months pass like water through stone, slowly, invisibly, but leaving permanent marks. The story spreads through the special operations community the way all true legends spread, not through official channels or after-action reports, through whispered conversations in team rooms at midnight, through late-night phone calls between old friends, through the sacred oral tradition of warriors who recognize when they have witnessed something that transcends the ordinary. It becomes known as the silent shot, sometimes the Thornton moment. At the Marine Corps Scout Sniper School in Quantico, Virginia, the story becomes required curriculum. Master Sergeant Declan Shay stands in front of a classroom of 30 young Marines. Eager faces, confident postures, some too confident. He can see himself in their eyes. The same swagger he wore like armor 18 months ago, before a woman with a $40 rifle case taught him what armor really looks like. He holds up a small, spiral-bound notebook, worn, frayed at the edges, coffee-stained, the cover bent from years inside cargo pockets on 4 continents. This cost $3 at a gas station. The wisdom inside it is priceless. He opens it, shows pages covered in dense, precise handwriting, wind charts rendered with the care of a cartographer. Mirage behavior patterns categorized by terrain type and temperature range. This belonged to the finest shooter I've ever seen, an Army sergeant major who taught me more in 10 minutes than I'd learned in 15 years. I was at the top of my game, or so I thought. Custom rifle, $18,000. Every piece of high-speed gear money could buy. I had a spotter with a $10,000 electronic wind meter, and I watched a woman with a standard issue rifle and a piece of yarn for a wind indicator make a shot I just missed. Make it look easy. Make it look like the bullet had no choice but to find that target. His voice drops. I'd spent the morning mocking her, playing to an audience, because I saw her gear and assumed I knew everything about her capabilities. I was wrong. The kind of wrong that breaks you open and builds you back different. At the Naval Special Warfare Center in Coronado, California, a glass display case stands in the main hallway. It is empty except for a brass plaque, already engraved, waiting. The silent shot, 2,000 meters, SGM Sarah Thornton, USA, Fort Irwin, June 2024. Below that, in smaller text, loaned by CPO Bridger Hale, she kept the rifle, he kept his life. A fair trade. The rifle itself is still with Sarah. She will send it to Coronado when it has taught its last lesson from her hands. That day has not come yet. At Fort Irwin, firing position 23 now bears a sign bolted to a wooden post. Thornton's Perch. Every sniper who comes through Fort Irwin seeks it out, takes their qualification shots from that exact position. Some leave tokens at the base. Challenge coins, unit patches. Small tributes to something they cannot quite articulate, but feel in their bones. 18 months after the silent shot. November 2025. The Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia stand eternal against a gray autumn sky. At a remote training facility tucked into a valley between two peaks, Sarah Thornton stands before a class of 25 sniper students. Mixed service, Army, Marines, Air Force, 2 Navy SEALs, 5 women, 20 men. What unites them is potential. She is 31 now. The lines around her eyes are deeper than they should be for her age. The copper in her hair carries threads of early silver, a legacy of stress and cold, and nights that never quite became sleep. But the focus is the same. The absolute, unwavering focus that has defined her since she was 10 years old, lying in the grass behind a farmhouse in these same mountains. The M110SASS, the rifle Bridger gave her, rests on a bipod beside her. Marksmanship is not about the rifle, not about the scope, not about the technology. She picks up the weapon, holds it out so the class can see it. This is a tool, well-made, capable, but ultimately just a tool. It has no value without the person behind it. She sets it down. The rifle is an extension of your will. The bullet is your message. Your job as a sniper is to deliver that message with absolute clarity. She walks the line of students, makes eye contact with each one. Some of you are here because you want to be the best. Some because you were ordered to be here. I don't care why you came. I only care about one thing. Are you willing to do the work? A young male student raises his hand, confident posture, shoulders back, chin lifted. Sergeant Major, I've been shooting since I was 6, won state competitions. I'm a natural. Sarah stops, looks at him. What's your name? Specialist Stratton Webb, Sergeant Major. You think you're a natural shooter, Webb? Yes, Sergeant Major. Always had a gift for it. Wrong, the word is flat. Final, a door closing. I'm not a natural anything. I've fired approximately 400,000 rounds in my career. I've spent over 10,000 hours behind a scope. I've logged wind data in 67 geographic locations across 4 continents. I've failed more shots than you've attempted. Natural talent is a myth, Webb. It's a story people tell themselves to avoid confronting a harder truth. What truth, Sergeant Major? That excellence is built, not born. That mastery requires suffering. That the gap between good and great is filled with thousands of hours of lonely work when nobody is watching and nobody cares whether you show up or stay in bed. Webb looks down, chastened. One of the female students raises her hand, nervous energy radiating from her like heat from a stove. Sergeant Major, what if people doubt us? What if they don't think we belong? Sarah walks over, kneels beside her. What's your name? Private First Class Bryn Carraway, Sergeant Major. Carraway, let me tell you something that took me years to learn. Other people's doubt is not your burden to carry. The young woman blinks. Processing. Your only job is to be so undeniably good at what you do that their doubt becomes irrelevant. Not by arguing, not by defending yourself, by demonstrating excellence so consistently that reality forces them to update their opinions. The afternoon continues. Sarah moves to a prone position for demonstration. The familiar ritual, breathing slows, body relaxes, mind sharpens, target at 1,400 meters. Wind left to right, 8 miles per hour. I saw him gusting to 12. Temperature 51 degrees. Humidity 62%. She does not use a calculator, does not check a chart, closes her eyes, runs the numbers in her head, opens them, settles into the scope, finds the target, a 12-inch steel plate barely visible in the gray afternoon light. Breath in, breath out, natural pause, trigger press, crack. 3 seconds later, the distant ring of steel on steel echoes across the valley. The students erupt in applause. Sarah stands, chambers another round, looks at Carraway. Your turn. The young woman's eyes go wide. Sergeant Major, I've never shot past 1,000 meters. Then today you learn. Sarah guides her into position. Alignment, breathing, scope picture. Same target, same conditions. But I'm not going to give you the solution. You're going to calculate it yourself. Carraway's hands shake. The pressure is visible. Everyone watching, the weight of expectation pressing down. What's the first thing you need to know? Range to target. Good. What else? Wind speed and direction. Keep going. Step by step, Carraway works the problem out loud. Sarah corrects small errors, reinforces correct thinking, guides without taking over. I think I have it, Sergeant Major. You think or you know? A swallow. Then, I know, then send it. The rifle cracks, dust kicks up 2 feet left of the target. Miss, Carraway starts to apologize. Don't adjust. You know where your round went. You know where the target is. What's your correction? 1 minute right, then make it. Carraway adjusts her scope, settles, breathes, fires. The steel rings across the valley. The class erupts. Carraway sits up with disbelief and joy fighting for control of her face. Sarah smiles, small, genuine, the rarest expression in her arsenal. Welcome to the profession, Carraway. The training weeks continue. Each day, Sarah pushes the students further into discomfort. Each night, she reviews data, prepares lessons, refines her methods. Declan Shea arrives 4 months into the program, transferred to the marksmanship unit to learn her teaching methodology. He sits in the back of her classes, takes notes, asks questions after hours with the humility of a man who has learned the cost of arrogance. But the tremor in Sarah's finger is getting worse. She notices it in small, private ways at first. A coffee cup that rattles against a saucer when she did not intend to move. A pen that jerks across a page mid-sentence. The subtle, creeping loss of the absolute steadiness that has defined her hand since childhood. She tells herself it is nothing. Fatigue, cold weather aggravating old damage. But deep down, in the place where she keeps the truths she does not want to face, she knows them. The nerve damage from the Hindu Kush is not stable. It is progressing. It reveals itself during a field exercise in the mountains. The students have deployed to elevated positions along a ridgeline for real-world engagement scenarios. Rocky outcroppings, narrow ledges, unstable ground that shifts without warning. Sarah is demonstrating a technique for reading wind through a narrow canyon when Stratton Webb, driven by his need to prove himself, moves to a position too far out on a rock shelf. The kind of position that looks tactically brilliant from a distance and gets people killed in practice. The shelf crumbles beneath him. Webb slides. His boots scramble for purchase on loose stone that gives way like sugar. His hands claw at rock that breaks apart under his fingers. His pack, 60 pounds of ammunition and equipment, pulls him backward over the edge with the patient inevitability of gravity. He catches himself on a jagged outcropping, fingers white with effort, legs dangling over 40 feet of empty air and hard ground below. His voice is controlled, but thin, the voice of a man trying very hard not to die. Sergeant Major, I'm slipping. Sarah moves before anyone else processes what has happened. Years of training kick in, not shooting training, the other kind. The kind every soldier carries in the marrow. Move towards the danger. Do not think, act. She is on the rock shelf in seconds, flat on her stomach, arms extended over the edge. She grabs Webb's right wrist with both hands and starts to pull. Webb is 200 pounds of muscle and gear. The angle is catastrophic. Her boots slide on loose stone. The edge of the shelf digs into her ribs hard enough to bruise. Every pound of his weight channels through her arms, her shoulders, her hands. And then the tremor hits. Her right hand, the hand with the damaged nerve, spasms hard. Her fingers lock rigid for a half second, then release involuntarily. A puppet with the strings cut. For one terrible, infinite moment, she feels Webb's weight slide through her grip, feels gravity winning, feels the familiar enemy, the numbness, the betrayal of a body that will not obey. No. She clenches her jaw so hard her teeth creak, forces the tremor down through pure will. The same will that held her on a frozen ridge for 72 hours. The same will that refused to let 12 men die. Her left hand compensates, gripping harder, tendons standing out like bridge cables beneath the skin. But physics is physics. 200 pounds of dead weight, loose stone, a hand that will not cooperate. Then Bryn Carraway is beside her, the student who was afraid she did not belong, the quiet one from Carolina, the one who asked about doubt. She is on her stomach, arms extended over the edge, scraped hands locked around Webb's other wrist with a grip that comes from somewhere beyond muscle, somewhere in the territory of pure refusal to let someone fall on her watch. Together they pull, inch by inch, Webb's elbows clear of the edge, his torso, his hips. He rolls onto solid ground, gasping, shaking, alive. The class gathers. Webb is pale but uninjured. Carraway's hands are scraped raw, bleeding from the rock. She does not notice. Nobody says a word about Sarah's hand, but they all saw it. The spasm, the involuntary release, the first visible fracture in the armor of a woman they had begun to believe was unbreakable. That night, alone in her quarters, Sarah sits on the edge of her cot. The room is sparse, military issue. A desk, a lamp. On the desk, a framed photograph she shows no one. A man in desert camouflage with his arm around a 10-year-old girl, both squinting into the Virginia sun. The girl is holding a rifle. The man is smiling the way only a father smiles at a daughter who has just discovered she is capable of something extraordinary. She holds up her right hand, watches the tremor come and go, a tide she cannot control. She picks up the piece of olive drab yarn from the nightstand, holds it in her damaged hand, presses it against her cheek. The fabric is so old, so worn by years in weather, that it is soft as cotton. Whatever scent her father left on it is long gone. But she holds it anyway, because some things carry weight that has nothing to do with grams or ounces. I don't know what I'd do if I can't shoot anymore, Daddy. It's all I know. It's all I have of you. The mountains outside are dark. The wind moves through the Virginia pines with the same sound it made when she was 10 years old. Learning to read the world through a piece of string. Learning that the truth is in the wind if you are patient enough to listen. A knock on the door. Declan Shea. He does not ask to come in, just stands in the doorway. He has seen the tremor. He has been watching for weeks with the quiet attention of a man who has learned to observe before he speaks. How long? Sarah does not pretend to misunderstand. Since Afghanistan, getting worse. A long silence. Wind in the pines. Then Declan speaks, and his voice is different from the one that boomed across the cauldron 18 months ago. Quieter. Stripped of everything but honesty. You know what I used to think made a great sniper? The shot. The distance, the impossible moment. He shakes his head slowly. I was wrong about that too. It's not the shot, it's what comes after the shot. What you build, what you pass on. Your legacy isn't the 2,000-meter shot, Sarah. It's the 25 people in that classroom. And the hundreds who'll come after them. Sarah looks at him. The man who mocked her 18 months ago. The man who could not see past his own reflection. Standing in her doorway now, speaking a truth she needs to hear, delivered with the hard-won gentleness of someone who has been broken and rebuilt. When did you get wise, Shay? About the time a woman with a $40 rifle case taught me I didn't know a damn thing. The next morning, Sarah changes her approach. For the final assessment, she does not shoot the demonstration herself. Instead, she calls Bryn Carraway to the firing line. The student who saved Webb on the cliff. The student who arrived afraid she did not belong. The target is at 1,400 meters. The same distance where Sarah demonstrated on the first day. The same conditions. The same wind. Sarah kneels beside her, not as a shooter this time, as a teacher. What do you see, Carraway? The young woman describes the target. The wind, the mirage, works through the calculations step by step, her voice growing steadier with each number. Sarah listens, corrects one small error in the wind call, then steps back. Send it. Crack. Dust. 2 feet left. Miss. Carraway's shoulders tighten. But before she can speak, Sarah is there. What's the adjustment? 1 minute right, then make it. Carraway adjusts, settles, breathes, the rifle cracks. 3 seconds of silence. Then the steel rings across the valley, clear and clean, and the class erupts. Carraway sits up, eyes shining, not tears, light. And Sarah Thornton smiles, a real smile, the kind she has not worn in years. Because standing on that Virginia mountainside, watching a young woman discover her own capability, she understands what Declan was trying to tell her, what her father was trying to teach her all along. In a patch of grass behind a farmhouse, with a rifle and a piece of string, and the patience to let a child learn. The shot is not the legacy. The shooter you helped create is the legacy. 3 weeks later, Fort Bragg, North Carolina, General Thaddeus Kane's retirement ceremony. The parade ground is filled with hundreds of soldiers in dress uniforms, spit-shine boots and pressed creases, and the pageantry of military tradition unfolding under a November sky. Sarah stands in formation, dress blues, every ribbon and badge on display. For the first time in years, she is wearing her Sergeant Major insignia. Full rank, no hiding, the Bronze Star with Valor device, the Purple Heart, rows of color on dark blue fabric, each one a story most of the crowd will never hear. Kane takes the podium. 41 years of service. Wars fought. Men lost. Decisions that kept him awake at 3 in the morning for decades. In 4 decades, I've met thousands of warriors, but only a handful truly embody what it means to serve, to excel without demanding recognition, to lead by example rather than by position. He looks directly at Sarah's formation. One of those soldiers is here today. Sergeant Major Sarah Thornton taught me more about leadership in one afternoon than I learned in 4 years at West Point. She reminded me that the strength of our military is not in budget dollars or technology. It is in the quiet competence of soldiers who do their jobs perfectly when nobody is watching. He gestures. Sergeant Major Thornton, would you step forward? Every head turns. Sarah steps from formation, marches to center, comes to attention, her posture perfect, her face composed. But beneath the composure, her heart is hammering against her ribs. Kane salutes her. She returns it. Then he removes the 4-star insignia from his shoulder, holds it out. The medal catches the November light. This represents 41 years of service, thousands of missions, the privilege of serving alongside the finest men and women this nation produces. I'm giving it to you, not as a gift, as a symbol, a reminder that true leadership doesn't come from rank. It comes from character, from the willingness to stand on a frozen mountain for 3 days because 12 men needed someone to hold back the dark, from the humility to wear 3 stripes when you've earned the highest enlisted rank in the Army, from the dedication to write the book that everyone studies and never put your name on a single page. Sarah takes the insignia. Her hands are steady. Her eyes are not. Sir, I don't know what to say. Say you'll keep teaching, keep raising the standard, keep proving that excellence is built, not born. I will, sir. I promise. They stand. General and Sergeant Major, mentor and student. 15 years of shared history between them, stretching back to a gymnasium in rural Virginia and a girl who said, "I'm going to be better than my father." Kane speaks once more. Quietly, just for her. "Your father would be proud, Sarah." Rollins would be so proud. Her composure cracks, just for a moment. One tear tracks down her cheek before she blinks it back. She nods. Cannot speak. The formation erupts in applause. Kane steps back, renders one final salute. Sarah returns it, holds it. And the circle that began 15 years ago in a high school gymnasium closes with the quiet precision of a rifle bolt sliding home. Bridger Hale is there. In the crowd, dress white sharp as a blade. After the ceremony, he finds Sarah near the edge of the parade ground. "Viper element," she says quietly. "You made it home. All 12 of us. Because of you." A comfortable silence. The kind shared by people who do not need words to communicate what matters. "How are the boys?" Bridger's weathered face softens. 14 and 11 now. The older one wants to be a SEAL. The younger one wants to fly helicopters. Neither of them knows what happened in that valley. But someday I'll tell them. And I'll tell them about the woman on the mountain who made sure their father came home. Sarah looks away, blinks once. Hard. "It's not just about then," Bridger continues quietly. "Because of what you're building here, the Caraways and the Webbs and all the ones who come after, a lot more than 12 are going to make it home." They shake hands. The grip carries 6 years of gratitude and something deeper. The understanding that some debts can never be repaid. They can only be passed forward. That evening, as Sarah walks toward the parking lot, a young soldier she does not recognize approaches. Hesitant, respectful. "Sergeant Major Thornton." "Yes." The soldier extends his hand. In it, a challenge coin, custom made. On one side, the silhouette of a sniper on a ridgeline. On the other, 3 words. Quiet, competent, deadly. "I was at Fort Irwin 18 months ago. I saw the shot. Changed my life. Changed how I think about what's possible." Sarah takes the coin, studies it, turns it over, feels its weight. "You made this?" "Had a batch made, Sergeant Major. Been giving them to shooters I respect. Wanted you to have the first one." "What's your name?" "Specialist Everett Locke, Sergeant Major. I'm in Sergeant Shea's class now, learning to be an instructor." "Shea's teaching you well?" "Yes, Sergeant Major. He tells us about checking ego at the door and letting the work speak for itself. Says he learned that lesson the hard way." Sarah nods, holds up the coin. "Thank you, Specialist. I'll carry this." Locke salutes. She returns it. He walks away into the November evening. Sarah stands alone in the gathering darkness. The coin in one hand, in the other, without thinking, she has reached into her pocket and found the piece of olive drab yarn. She holds them both, the old and the new, the inheritance and the legacy, the thing her father gave her and the thing she is building for people she has not met yet. The Blue Ridge Mountains rise in the distance, the same mountains where her father taught her to shoot 21 years ago, the same mountains where she now teaches others. The wind moves through the pines with the same whisper it carried when she was 10 years old, lying in the grass, squinting through sights too far from her eye and too heavy for her arms, listening to her father's patient voice. Again, little bird, adjust, learn from it. She thinks about the yarn, about a piece of string that has traveled from a Virginia farmhouse to a frozen ridge in Afghanistan, to a blazing range in the Mojave Desert, to a training facility in these same mountains. About the man who tied it to a barrel and said, "It will tell you the truth about the wind every single time." She thinks about Bridger Hale, who spent 6 years looking for a ghost and found a woman. About Declan Shea, who walked into Fort Irwin, the loudest man on the range, and walked out the quietest. About General Kane, who saw a teenager with fire in her eyes and bet 41 years of professional judgment on her future. About Bryn Caraway, who arrived afraid she did not belong and then reached over a cliff without hesitation to save a man's life. She thinks about her father, about the way he laughed when she missed her first shot, about the way he said, "That's my girl, that's a Thornton," about the folded flag and the empty chair at Christmas, and the silence in the house that never quite filled back up. She presses the yarn against her cheek one more time, puts the coin in her pocket beside it, picks up her rifle case, walks toward her truck. Tomorrow there will be more students, more lessons, more young soldiers who need someone to believe in them before they believe in themselves. More chances to pass forward what Rollins Thornton gave his daughter in a patch of grass behind a Virginia farmhouse on a summer afternoon that smelled like pine and gunpowder and possibility. The work never ends. It just finds new hands. And Sarah Thornton whispers, so quiet that only the Virginia wind can hear, I'm still working for it, Daddy. Every single day, I'm still working for it. She drives away into the November night. The mountains stand eternal behind her. And somewhere, in ranges and team rooms and training facilities across the country, the story continues to spread. The silent shot, Thornton's perch. The lesson that quiet competence will always triumph over loud arrogance. That gear does not make the warrior. The warrior makes the gear matter. That the most dangerous weapon on any battlefield is not the rifle in your hands. It is the discipline in your mind and the humility in your heart. The proof that excellence does not need to announce itself, it just needs to exist.